I used to think life had settled into something predictable. The days blended into one another, and I believed I had figured out exactly how my story was supposed to go. My relationship with my son Henry felt steady and unchanging. We were close, of course, but after he grew older, things shifted into a routine. We had our regular chats, our dinners, and those familiar check-ins that felt comfortable but not particularly deep. It all seemed ordinary, and I thought that was enough. But then came the trip I assumed was nothing more than a short getaway. I had no idea at the time that it would end up changing the way I saw both my son and myself. When Henry first suggested it, I didn't feel much excitement. Travel hadn't been on my mind for years. My friends often spoke about how family trips could be refreshing, how they could help you reconnect with loved ones in ways daily life never allowed. They would tell me things like, it's a chance to make new memories, but I was skeptical. After my husband passed away, I withdrew into myself. I did what needed to be done, cared for the house, kept up with responsibilities, and tried to hold myself together for Henry. Traveling or seeking out joy just didn't seem important anymore. The idea of spending days away felt almost exhausting rather than energizing. Henry was in his 30s now, with his own life, his own responsibilities. We spoke often enough, but our conversations had become surface level. He'd ask how I was, I'd ask how his work was going, and then we'd move on. It had been a long time since we had shared the kind of connection we once had when he was younger. So when Henry came to me with the idea of going away to the mountains for a weekend, I was caught off guard. It'll be good for you, huh? He said softly, in that caring tone that always reminded me of his father. And just like that, my resolve gave way. I had always been the kind of person who put others first, someone who didn't like to disappoint. Before I could think it through, I agreed. We packed our bags, and soon we were on the road toward the mountains. The cabin Henry had chosen was tucked into the hillside, with large windows that looked out over a sweeping valley. The air felt crisp and cool as we stepped out of the car, the scent of pine trees filling my lungs. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the sky. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift inside me. Henry had taken care of all the details, booking the cabin, making sure we had food, bringing everything we needed. I was touched by his thoughtfulness, by how much he seemed to know what I needed before I even asked. Inside the cabin was simple but charming. Wooden walls, a fireplace that immediately filled the space with warmth, and that quietness you only find when you're far away from the rush of daily life. We unpacked our bags, moving around each other in silence, almost awkward in the unfamiliar closeness. It had been years since it was just the two of us, without distractions, without routines pulling us apart. I didn't quite know what to expect from this trip. That first night, we had dinner by the fire. The glow of the flames danced across the room, the smell of burning wood wrapping around us. We talked about small things at first, family stories, old memories, the places I had traveled with his father years ago. When Henry asked about our honeymoon in Paris, I found myself smiling as I told him about wandering through cobblestone streets, laughing over little things, feeling carefree in a way that felt almost unreachable now. Henry listened intently, his eyes never leaving mine. And for a moment, I saw the little boy he once was, the one who would sit at the table wide-eyed, listening to stories about when his dad and I were young. But then something in the air shifted. After a pause, Henry cleared his throat. "This sounds nervous and unsteady, Mom. There's something I've been wanting to tell you," he said carefully. I set my cup of tea down, curiosity sparking. I knew that tone, the one he used when something mattered deeply. "What's on your mind, Henry?" He hesitated, his fingers tapping lightly against his mug. "It's about us. About our relationship." I frowned a little, unsure where he was going. "What do you mean?" He drew in a breath before speaking again. "Since Dad passed, I feel like we slipped into this routine. We've been close, but we don't really talk about the deeper stuff anymore. We don't talk about what we're really feeling. I don't want us to miss the chance to reconnect, Mom. I think we need that." His words caught me off guard. My son, always steady, always reliable, was sitting across from me, voicing something I hadn't even realized we'd both been missing. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the vulnerability in his eyes. It stirred something in me, a mix of love, regret, and sadness. "I didn't realize you felt that way," I admitted quietly. "I've been so wrapped up in my own grief that I didn't see what it was doing to us." "I'm sorry, Henry." He shook his head gently, offering me a small smile. "It's not about blame, Mom. I just miss us. I miss the way we used to talk." His words opened a door I hadn't even known was closed. Sitting by that fire, I realized how much I had let silence grow between us. We had both been trying to manage the loss of his father in our own ways, but in doing so, we had let our connection fade. And in that moment, I understood that this trip wasn't just a casual getaway, was a chance to find each other again. The rest of that night was filled with conversation. We laughed about old memories, shared tears over the pain we had buried, and spoke words we hadn't dared to say before. It was healing in a way I didn't expect. As though a weight I had been carrying for years was finally lifting. The following morning, we fell into a new rhythm. We drank coffee at the wooden table by the window, watching the fog drift down the mountainside. Henry had this habit of asking me questions that made me stop and think. That morning, he leaned forward and asked, "What's something you've always wanted to do but never did?" I hesitated. At 57, I felt like I had lived a full life raising a family, traveling some, building a home. But as I searched my heart, I realized there were still dreams I had quietly tucked away. "I always wanted to take a painting class," I admitted. The words felt strange on my tongue, as though speaking them out loud made them more real. "Why didn't you?" he asked, brows raised. I sighed. Life got in the way. There was always something more important. Work, the house, making sure you had what you needed. I never felt like there was time for something just for me. "That's sad," he said softly, his voice carrying a weight that went deeper than I expected. "You should have done it." His words hit me in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't just about painting. It was about me, about the parts of myself I had let slip away. And hearing that from my son, the one person I had always put first, was both heartbreaking and comforting. "Maybe it's not too late," I said, though my voice wavered with uncertainty. Later that day, we walked through the woods, the crisp autumn air sharp with the scent of pine. Sunlight filtered through golden leaves, making the forest glow as if it were alive. For hours we wandered, sometimes talking, sometimes walking in silence. There was something freeing about those moments. No noise, no distractions, just us rediscovering each other as people, not just as mother and son. That evening we sat on the porch as the sky turned pink and orange. Henry brought out a bottle of wine, and we sipped slowly, wrapped in the calm of the mountains. "You know," he said, glancing at me, "I think we've both been so focused on the past that we forgot about what's still ahead." His words settled deep in my chest. He was right. For so long I had lived in grief, holding on to memories but never looking forward. But sitting there beside him, I felt something awaken. Maybe it wasn't too late to embrace the future. The days passed quickly, each one weaving us closer together. Mornings were filled with quiet coffee and thoughtful questions. Afternoons were spent exploring trails, laughing over silly moments, or sharing stories we hadn't told in years. Evenings were for fireside talks where the flames crackled in rhythm with our words. One afternoon we walked to a nearby lake. The water shimmered like glass, reflecting the mountains and the sky above. We stood at the edge, taking it all in, the peace of the moment wrapping around us. "Remember how you said you wanted to take a painting class?" Henry asked. I nodded. "You should do it, Mom. You've spent so much time taking care of everyone else. It's time you did something for yourself." His words brought tears to my eyes. For years, I had been defined by roles: wife, mother, caretaker, widow. But in that moment, Henry reminded me that I was also Lauren, a woman with dreams, passions, and a life still worth living. "You really think I should?" I asked, my voice quiet. "Absolutely," he said firmly. "And I'll help you however I can." His support filled me with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just about painting anymore. It was about reclaiming the parts of myself I had buried. The trip was drawing to an end, but it didn't feel like a goodbye. It felt like the beginning of something new. As we packed our bags on the last morning, I looked around the cabin one final time. I had arrived feeling weighed down, disconnected, and stuck in grief. I was leaving with a lighter heart, a renewed bond with my son, and a hope I hadn't felt in years. Henry smiled at me as he closed the door behind us. "I'm glad we did this, Mom. I feel like we're in a better place now." "So do I said, my chest tight with emotion. "And I don't want this to end when we leave here. I want us to keep talking, to keep sharing." He nodded, his expression soft and full of understanding. "We will." As we drove down the mountain road, I felt peace settle over me. I didn't know exactly what the future held, but I knew one thing with certainty. I wasn't alone, and I never would be.